Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. I was about to say Wednesday, but it's Tuesday, July 26th. I'm trying to get a day ahead here. Um, Basically, we just had a trading range today. It got pretty exciting right here. It didn't take long to take all that back and then kind of just chop around. I would characterize this as a range day. We did shoot a little lower. The range lows ended up being down here by the end of the day. Early on, that was your overnight lows right here, a double bottom, so that's where I had it. And we did have a little failed break lower. Tried to push lower again and end up back inside the channel by the end of the day. By the end of the day, we actually closed. Let's just look here. We closed at 2163.75 today. Yesterday we closed at 2162 and a quarter. So about a point difference, but we had some nice movement in here. We had a nice trend up that you could have caught nice runners, and we had this trend down. The only way to catch this one was here. There was actually another entry here, a little breakout pullback short right off the trend line. And a lot of times you get two legs down, but I think it's a little risky. But look at what you got out of it, and I would have been looking for it once it kept falling. I would have said, hey, we're probably headed to here, but it pushed on through, pulled back, and you get a little breakout pullback with a double test of that line there and another chance to get short. But again, I think that one's risky as well. So again, not a lot of entries today, but the ones that are here are pretty obvious, and you got some nice movement out of them. So I'm going to back out a little bit. We'll talk about the trades, and won't take long today, unfortunately. So somebody asked me about the volume and the volatility. It's definitely slowed down. The volume is lower. It's not crazy low, but I mean, this is low volume compared to what we have, but the volatility is what's just really changed. I mean, even though we're getting some movement occasionally, we're closing almost unchanged every day. So the market's just not doing anything right now. It's summertime. A lot of your professional traders are on vacation or taking vacation, and just a lot going on. So anyway, that's got a lot to do with it. But let's talk about the trades. First trade I saw when I came in was right here. Just another pullback to the trend line. This is an obvious trend line working up, and this looks like an obvious trading range, and you would have been looking for prices to come to here. And so I like that long. And then you get another push lower here. This is basically a double bottom, so this is like a failed second entry short. That's why I like it going long right into those highs, and the fact that it's off the trend line again and everything's still closing inside that trend line. So you really would have liked for it to take on off here, but when it didn't, when it created the little trap, I like adding on so that you can get a double load here and you easily catch a runner. And early on, I was looking at this as the highs. I think it is. I think we just had an overshoot here. You can move it up and make it fit off the top. So, I don't think it really matters. I really think it's here, and that we just got an overshoot and the reversal. Because notice we get a break here, close outside, and we never get a retest. And that's pretty typical on an overshoot. So even though you don't know going on, later on I would say it's obvious this was an overshoot now, but it wasn't that obvious in real time. I think earlier today I had it here, looking for the high, this being the high. And doesn't really matter. The only thing is, if you looked at this as an overshoot, that would have probably changed this from green to red, because we're so far away from the EMA. Notice this shorter term trend line, you can probably barely see the dotted line I got working up. You get a close outside, push to a new high, and then it reverses. And that's pretty typical. We're so far away from the EMA. You're looking for it to come back, especially on what started out looking like a range day. We're going to come back to that EMA before too long. And so if you did notice this is an overshoot, I would be more apt to have that as red. Even though it's not a great signal bar, it's just so far away from the EMA. And that's typically how these reversals will do. And I had a conversation with another trader through email today about these shorter term trend lines. Just make sure you understand that to draw these, you need at least 3 bars, and these shorter term ones like this are more accurate with 3 or more bars actually, but you need at least 3 bars. You can't just take 2 bars and draw one and expect it to be correct. And to give you an example, I don't think this is where he had it drawn, but he had one drawn. See how you get 3 bars there? But he had it drawn more like that. Then, of course, he clones that line or copies it, and he drags it over, and it looks like that. Well, prices aren't fitting in there. So even though it looks like you get a break there at a new high, you actually don't get a new high, but just assume you did. And he's trying to go short here. And but his prices are not fitting neatly in there. You got a couple of touches here and a couple of touches up here, and you're just kind of going sideways now. It looked very similar to this. But the way this little short-term setup would be here, if you were looking at a short-term one, is like that. That's where you get the touches going up. And if you clone that and move it over, then it kind of fits on the other side as well. You do get a break and attempt at a new high, and you end up getting a trap and it going higher. But you have to draw these lines properly. A lot of times you can be close and you still get to where you need to be. But on those micro ones, you need at least 3 bars, and you really need more for them to be really accurate. And this is another good example of one right here. You're working up, and you can see that's a nice little micro trend. And you get a close outside, but you never really get a retest, so you really don't get a trigger there. So, and after moving down that far after a break of this one, then I'd be leery of this one. So even though it made a new low, you just got to skip it. So, but anyway, I like adding on here, and this is a nice move up in the break, new high. And again, if you see this short-term trend line, you can almost make that red. This is real borderline, but I'm going to leave it green because it's still a little aggressive. And as we come back inside and we close here, and so you get more touches and closes right along that line. But again, you got a lot of overlap here. If this would have broke higher above this little double top and then turned down, maybe you go short there, but I think you got to skip that because there's too big a chance that you push up one more time and test that for your double test rule. But it just keeps going lower here. There's a little long trap right there, but I don't like going short there either because you may still get a retest of the high. You just don't know yet. And at this point, you got a channel working lower here, and you haven't really worked to the lower side. You could have been looking at it like here, but I think in the end, it's right across those lows. And so I don't like either one of those triggers. Then you just start kind of going sideways. You do get a close outside here, and then you get this big bearish bar. So you're probably going to test this double bottom here, and this is a long trap as well. Notice this is a new high. You could really treat this like one leg down and a first entry, pull back second entry. So it's like a little second entry, but notice there's also congestion, and this is like a failed breakout here. So as soon as you get a break lower, you can, if you got room to get out before these lows, you can trade that again. And notice how it tried to bounce there but couldn't, and it pushed on through, and it pulls back, and it tests that breakout area. That was the support. Now it acts as a resistance, and it's a little bit aggressive, but there's some reasons to go short there because this is looking like a range day. And if so, we're probably coming back down here, but we do have a close outside the new low. But a lot of times you get 2 legs, so at least you might get a measure leg like this right here. And if you measure that one, that gives you plenty of room. But this thing, the bottom just falls out of it. I'm sure there'll be some news item that says what caused this or whatever, but it doesn't matter. And generally they make up the news to fit the price action, so who knows what caused it. But anyway, the bottom just falls out. And if you catch this one or this one, you catch a runner. Even if you caught this one, you might still have a runner. I don't know if you'd still be holding on to it, but definitely this one, and I like this setup. And this one is close. Again, if you see the range, possible range day, there's reasons to like that trade. Notice that there is a two-leg move here. There's one leg down, a little correction, and then another. So this is almost could be treated like a failed second entry long as well. If it had ticked higher there, you'd have it, and that's a sure thing. So, but there's little nuances like that that you know, with time and experience, as you hone this skill, you'll start to see those little things. That's hard to pick up unless you're really skilled at reading the chart. So, but then you got this trend. And this is another one of those where you just get a real tight trend line working down. And notice how prices are fitting well there. You copy it and move it over, and look how it's fitting off the bottom as well. It's fitting really well. And you really kind of get a little overshoot there. And it's not long till you get a break. And then you move to a new low, and it gets two legs, and then it reverses. And this second leg's not really a measured leg either. It reverses. So, but this is another breakout pullback short. This is almost a repeat pattern here of what happened up here on a smaller scale, but this is on the bigger scale. It pushes through, and then it pulls back and tests that little breakout area and turns back down, a nice bearish bar in this case. And that's the first break of that channel right there. And even though that's real tight, that's a strong trend down, so you're going to retest that low. The question here is if you're early or not, and you're always taking a chance. You're not back to the EMA, but if this is going to hold, you're not going to get back to the EMA. You're just going to turn down off that retest of that breakout and go straight and make a new low, or attempt to make a new low here. So again, that's worth considering if you're being aggressive and you understand what's going on. And then notice what happens here. You push down, and then you pull back, and you get a failed second entry long there, but that's just so much congestion, and you already have a new low in place. I just don't think I would be interested in that. I'll go ahead and mark it, but I think it's just because there's a trap there, it does help you with that one. It gives you an additional reason to enter it. And so you might take that one on an aggressive move. And of course we bounce. It's tempting to go long right here coming back, but on a move like that, something has happened, something has changed, and you got to be real careful going long. Even though it's still considered a failed break lower on a possible range day, I just don't think you want to risk that back to the long side. Same thing here. You know, you might have been thinking back. Both of them would have worked. I don't think they're worth risking. You need to wait on the reversal pattern, and notice we get it here. Notice how we push further. We push down here, and we only go from here to here, where we just had that huge move. And then we push down again, and we go even shorter, and it reverses. And notice how it goes right through the EMA, pulls back and tests right there, and then pulls back and tests it again. That's your failed second entry short. That's your reversal pattern. It's right off. Notice how I use those first three bars to kind of get an angle there on that. And actually, you would have had that confirmed by crawling up the line here before it ever came back here. And so you should have been looking for something to happen right over here somewhere. And that's a failed second entry short. It's a reversal pattern. It's not a great signal bar, but it doesn't matter because it's a short trap. We're going to go back, and we're going to at least test this area right here. So just make sure you get in with enough room to test that. You really could use a stop right there because of the trap and the reversal. But when it pushes through here and pulls back and fails again and goes higher, you really need to wait on this bar. And if you did, you might have missed this. But when it breaks up, put a limit order back in there right where the stop would have be in and see if it pulls back and gets you. So that you might have missed that one. But I like adding on there because you wouldn't have been out of this one most likely. So just add on right there. You could have considered entering here, but it didn't break lower. And you got those two bars and it's right into that, what looks like a double top. So you got to be careful with that one. But this thing takes off. You do have what looks like a close outside here. It's so close that it's not, I mean, you need a convincing close, and you could actually move that a little lower and say, hey, maybe that didn't close. So but you'd still get an overshoot here. So don't be surprised that you get the break here, because look at the overshoot here. But look what happens here. It looks like you get a failed second entry long, and it just turns out to be a failed second entry short, and you get another chance to go long there. It's a little aggressive. We're kind of going sideways here. And it's flip-flopping both ways, but you get this double bottom and a little higher double bottom, 2-bar matching low there. So I kind of like that to push for a new high. And at this point, you figure we're coming back to at least this area, and we may come all the way back to here, because this was the important area where the big sell-off, and you can tell we're trying to come back and test that area again. And there's going to be some people, some traders that want to try to sell it again here because they missed it the first time. And you'll see that a lot, and you see we sold off again. But the range continued to hold, and we got back inside it again. So yeah, this one's a little aggressive. But then look what happens here. We got the closeout. We got an overshoot, a couple of possible closes outside, move to a new high. Then we get a first entry long. We pull back. That sets the trend line there. And then we pull back and test it again. Look how bearish that bar is. And we did get through the EMA. That's your reversal. It didn't tick higher there, so you don't really get your failed second entry long, but it tried to go higher, and it's the third touch and confirmation of that trend line. And that's a big bearish bar. And again, you may not have got your stop order in there in time, so put a limit order in there and see if it'll come back and get you, because we may get another measured leg down like this one over here. And that's what you needed to be hoping for. It didn't happen, but still, that's a very nice move down. And then we reverse back up. You get a close outside, move to a new high, and it's right off that trend line again. I like going short there too. You do have an overshoot, so you got to be a little careful here. But that's a double top, a little trap, and it's right off the trend line and a fairly bearish bar. And on this correction coming up, you got your close outside and move to a new high. And you really could have looked at this like a little trading range too, and that's a failed break high right off the trend line, the EMA. And I didn't see any way to get back into this, because even though you got overlap here, and notice this little gap over here right on that trend line. It usually tells you got it in the right place. Notice that it closes on its high and opens on its low, and it doesn't back up and overlap those bars. That's a sure sign in most cases that there's something going on there. And that's the same thing that happened right here. Notice how there's a gap in there. Look at all that resistance across there before. That's telling you that there's a support resistance line running across there. So anyway, that pretty much does it for today. In the end, it's just a range day, and we really closed almost unchanged. So, but yeah, not a lot of trades today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 3, 4, 5 green ones. So you should have been able to find 1 or 2 trades that really had a nice move today, and you made with a chance to make some nice money. But the key to all this is learning to be able to see this after the fact, because until you can see it after the fact easily, I mean, I can glance at a chart and see all this real quickly and easily, but I've been doing this a long time, and I've become very skilled at it. And it is a skill. It's a learnable skill, but it takes a while to do it. And but until you can learn to see it after the fact, it's very, very hard to see it in real time. And people send me their charts and they don't see it in after the fact, so don't expect that you're going to be able to see this stuff in real time if you can't see it after the fact. And people lose sight of that, and they get these unreal expectations, and they don't understand why they miss things. But that's why, because you're not very skilled at seeing it yet. Doesn't mean you're not on the right track. Doesn't mean you're getting better every day. It just means you're not there yet. It takes a while. And there's nothing worse than being overconfident and rushing in to trade live and not being ready. And I've seen so many people tell me over and over, I got it now, I'm ready. And then it's not long at all, they send me back, well, you were right, I wasn't ready, I just thought I was. When you finally get there, and you've probably heard me say this before, when you finally do get there and you finally made it, you will know. You'll think you've gotten there several times, but you'll know when you're really there. And that'll all make sense. Right now it probably doesn't make sense to you, but you'll come back and you say, nah, I know what Mack meant when he said that now. So anyway, it's enough about that. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.